Welcome to the Appetite for Discussion show with your host, Brandon Crouch. Tonight's show is brought to you in part by Hunker Junk Hauling.
Hey, thanks everybody. This show is going to be a little different. We actually had an original guest, but he was a little under the weather, so he couldn't make it. So a guest that I've been wanting to interview actually since the beginning is our DJ / studio manager owner / a lot of other stuff.
You settled for me.
No.
You're stuck with me.
Actually, the nice part about it was that, you know, you and I have talked about doing a show, but it just doesn't work out. And then we had, to postpone the original show for today to a later date. And you were like, yeah, I can do it. So I think it all kind of
Well, I was glad I could help out.
Maybe.
And yes, it's nice to be on this side of the mic for
it's
a change.
a little different, right? So
yeah, it is. A little intimidating. Hello there, camera.
So, I think it's interesting that tonight is election night. And so, you're someone who has dabbled in some local politics
yes.
in your past and maybe even in the future. And we'll get to all that. But there's a few things when I talk to people, hey, Julie, like, oh, yeah, I know Julie. It seems like a lot of people know you in town.
Well, I've been here for a long time. I mean, and, I've kind of put myself in the public eye, not through public service, but through business, and I've had a ton of different businesses. And most of the businesses have kind of catered to all walks in life of people, so. Restaurant business, I had a bar business, I had a rental business. The rental business probably got me more exposure to the basic general public of Statesville than anything, because everybody needed what we had, So.
What type of rental business was it?
Party rentals. Oh,
okay.
Yeah, it was called Shindigs. Started it in 2001.
You started that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, I started a business.
Well, I'm pretty sure in the past, somewhere along the way, I've rented stuff from there and didn't even know.
Maybe, yeah.
Small world.
Yeah. We were about 6 years, I think, and it got to be a little too much work, and moved on. I kept part of it.
Yeah.
My problem with it was I tried to do too much. We got into tuxedo rentals and wedding gowns, and at one point in time I even had 2 limousines.
Are you serious?
Yeah, and it just spread spread way too thin, and so it stressed me out. And I said, I need to. So I kept part of it. I kept the tuxedo business for a couple years after that, and the DJ thing. The DJ thing has been a staple of my life since high school, So
were you DJing in high school?
The first time I ever DJ, I helped the DJ, and I worked at McDonald's over on Signal Hill by the mall. I was working there, and the manager, one of the nighttime managers, was a DJ for WROQ 95.1. Which that might be before your time. They called it the album station at the time. They played.
I definitely don't remember the album station.
It was like a classic rock.
I like it already.
It was 95.1, same, still here, but just a different format. But he was a nighttime DJ, and then he was a mobile DJ on the side, and he was doing North Iredale's Homecoming, I think it was. Or, It wasn't a prom, and it was Homecoming or just a regular dance. And he asked me to help him, and because I went there, and I said yeah, and that was the first time I'd ever DJed. I liked all the buttons and the lights and all that. I've always been a huge music fan, my whole life. I've spent all my time as a kid in my room with the boom box making mixtapes. I just loved any kind of music and every kind of music growing up. So,
but you've actually you've played in bands before, right?
Yeah, that was later on in life. I'm kind of the kind of person who likes to try everything once. I kind of fell into that by accident.
Sure.
I had a PA system, and a guitar player friend of mine says, let's get together and jam a little bit. And we put somehow or another got enough together to do a couple gigs, and it was an experience, but it only the whole thing. I actually ended up in 2 or 3 different little bands in a couple year span, and then I decided maybe I should retire from that.
Local
Stick with
bands?
the DJing. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And did you play any instruments, or were you vocals?
No, just vocals.
Singer?
Front man. Yeah. Well,
Okay.
it's only natural for the DJ. I'm I could talk to the crowd. I had the PA. My singing voice was, a little to be desired. Actually, at the time, I got lucky because grunge was pretty popular. So,
okay. So this was like the early '90s when you were doing that.
Yeah, a little later in the '90s. Grunge was probably going out actually.
Oh, really?
So
Yeah.
about that time, '93 and maybe 94, 96, maybe
Okay.
maybe those 2 years span. I think
That's when the rap metal started coming into.
Yeah,
rap
I could never. I did 311 song. And that was about as close to rap metal as we got. And I could actually spit the first verse of was it what's that song they had the big hit Down?
Yeah.
I could do the first verse, but I could never get the second verse, so we dropped it. So.
It's a shame that if we.
But I was more of a screamer. I actually sang through my throat a lot.
Oh, really?
And it's not good for you.
No, it's really.
But I could
not.
emulate, certain artists. Stone Temple Pilots, I was decent at.
Okay.
We did some Rage songs. We did the easiest one, which is a lot of screaming, killing in the name of Marilyn Manson. We did Bush. Bush was probably Bush, and then I did a couple White Zombie songs. That was probably what people responded to the best. Oh, you sounded good on that one.
Okay.
And then some, the other stuff I didn't sound good on. They just looked at I always knew what I didn't sound good on. They tried to get me to do Alice in Chains, just a little too much talent to do that.
Right.
The talent that I lacked. Marilyn Manson,
You could handle that. You could stay within that range.
Yeah.
Now, one of the bands you sang for was Bloated Possum, right?
Yeah. I was singer number 3 for the Possum. We never actually played a gig. And
that's a bummer.
That lineup of the Possum never got out and about. We did Friday night practice, which really turned into little mini shows.
Yeah,
and we had a lot of fun with it.
Have you ever heard the cover band? They're out of Wilkesboro called Problem Child. They're an AC/DC tribute band.
Yeah.
Man, they're so good.
Yeah, that guy's got a great AC/DC.
Got a great voice, and they're a good band.
And I think they do. Don't they? They do a few others besides AC/DC.
They throw some
other
stuff in there. I know they do. I want to say they do Simple Man or Freebird.
Skinner,
they throw a little Skinner in there.
Yeah, I think I saw them at Gunter's one time up in Union Grove. I think they played up there quite often.
It's a good possibility for my 40th birthday. I'm going to have them play.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
Cool,
I don't have a venue for that yet, nor am I 40. But man, it's around the corner.
Yeah, it sneaks up on you.
Oh,
the big 5-0.
For you, is that coming?
2 years.
Okay,
well, year and a half. Year and a half.
Yeah. So you're 48.
48.
I'm 38. So, but now I didn't know that you actually served in the military.
Yep.
Right.
Yep. Proud Air Force veteran.
How long were you in the Air Force?
Just 4 years.
4 years.
Yeah, and went in right out of high school. Actually, I was in the delayed entry program. So
now what's that? What's for those at home? What's the delayed entry program?
I actually signed up my sophomore year of high school. It's a delayed entry. You basically they recruit you before you're eligible, really, and
like JRTC type. Or?
No, I was never in RTC. Well, yeah, actually, I was at one year at North Iredale. Not even 1 year, a half a year, because I came to North Iredale the middle of my sophomore year from Mooresville, and Mooresville didn't have a junior ROTC program at the time. North Iredale did, and I thought it'd be neat. And then once I got into it, I thought, man, I'm too cool for this. Plus, it was Army too. So,
Well, I think that was the only option right around here. I mean, it was the Army, JRTC.
Right?
I
think that's all they. They have Marines.
Do they have?
Yeah.
But in the schools, they have what I'm gonna call a program, for lack of a better.
Yeah, I don't think there's not a Air Force junior ROTC program around here. I think it's just Army and Marines. I don't know. I think North is Marines, if I'm not mistaken.
I have no idea.
No, North is Army.
Yeah, and Statesville's JRTC. I'm pretty sure they're Army.
Army, yeah.
So.
One of them, South maybe Marines. Yeah,
maybe.
I think South is because I used to DJ their what do you call it? Military ball. Yeah.
Military ball, yeah.
Marine
ball.
And they had it on the birthday of the Marine Corps.
Okay.
So I'm pretty positive.
So, how did you enjoy your time in the Air Force?
Yeah, it was kind of crazy. Like I said, I was a delayed entry program. I left two weeks after graduation. At that time, there was no, the thought of war or anything like that or any kind of conflict really was, laughable almost. Oh no, it's Russia thing's over with. It's pretty peaceful.
So it was around 88-ish?
88.
88.
Mm-hmm, yeah.
So it was actually a good time, I guess.
Yeah, it was perfect for me. And I went in, I'm not going to downplay my service, but I went in for education. I knew college wasn't for me, and I wanted some technical training, and I went in to be an aircraft mechanic, and I loved it. I loved working on the planes. I had aspirations to continue that after the Air Force, but it just didn't work out.
Do you think that going to the Air Force and learning a trade, I mean, that's something that has went away, in our schools learning to, but I think it's starting to make a bit of a resurgence.
It is, man. And I can understand why, because of these student loans, and I've got some nephews that went to school, and they got some money to pay back, and I don't want to get into how much or whatever, but well, I mean, I've heard tell of kids graduating 22 years old and they're 100,000 in debt.
And unfortunately they have a career where they only make 40,000 a year, and it's going to take them forever to pay that
if
back.
they can even get a job doing
that's the other part.
what they went to school for, depending on the career. So,
but school is not for everybody.
It's not, and I think some technical schools will probably be a better option for a lot of kids coming up in the future, especially with the rising cost of colleges.
What is it? Is the college tuitions carrying like the largest debt right now?
Yeah, it's crazy. It's crazy. And really, I think there was some legislation, back in the day, prior administration, to control some student loans. I think they did something with the interest on it. It was a good thing. I know that you don't hear much talk about, but I think they, if I'm not mistaken, wasn't it something about the interest rate?
I think there was something loans, I think maybe they put a cap on it, or they extended your payment plan or something.
Right. They figured out a way to help a lot of people that. Beforehand.
But the cost of tuition didn't go down.
No. Right. It's gone up.
Exactly. If anything, it's increased.
And that's probably why, because
I mean, I don't know.
That's going to make that money back somehow or another. But anyway, it was just a good move for me. I had to get out of town. I was never much of a student. The delayed entry program probably didn't help matters, because I knew what I was going to do. So it's like, you go to high school in the morning, and it's like,
right.
I floated.
Around.
Yeah, I floated.
Right.
And I regret that, nowadays, but
I would say most people who we know and talk to in life look back and say, damn it, I wish I would have done
of course, and I tell my kids that all the time, and I'm like,
but most kids aren't listening.
That little bit of extra hard work right now
is worth it.
Yeah.
You might think you're really missing out on something, but you're not.
Right.
You're not. That extra effort is really going to pay off.
No. And I don't know why. I mean, I wasn't really caught up in anything at that age. I think I was just lazy.
Girls and rock and roll.
Yeah, maybe women a little bit.
That's been the downfall of many a good man.
Yeah.
So you, where were you stationed in the military?
Edwards Air Force Base. It was really kind of my military career was kind of like the rest of my life. I kind of lucked out a lot. I got sent to a place that was very laid back. It was almost like a job. And it didn't work a lot. I actually was able to have a part-time job while I was in the Air Force, and actually made more money
doing the part-time stuff.
Yeah, right. And it was still doing the same thing. I was working on airplanes.
That's cool.
So at night I worked third shift. I work on the military planes, and then when I got off third shift, I'd go to the airport and worked on civilian planes. So I got to see a lot of cool stuff. Being at Edwards is a test base. So they have pretty much every branch of service was there, and every airplane you can imagine was there. That's even where they tested. The time I was out there, they were having a competition for the new fighter for the Air Force. There was a competition between 2 or 3 different manufacturers for they called it the YF-22 and the YF-23. the YF-22 actually got the contract and was the new, and it's still around now. They're actually, I guess, looking, they got the 35 now. They're looking at putting in. I myself don't really know why they need fighters, with the technology they got, but they want to have them, I guess.
So you probably know more about the bad shit about planes than I want to know. Someone who flies quite a bit.
Well, I worked on a B-52s, man, and the resiliency of is that the right word?
Resiliency, yeah.
I mean, that plane was built in 55. And,
that is right.
And this was in the early 90s. I was working on it. They're still flying around, and I think they still have them today, So 40, 50 years, these planes are holding up.
Years.
So 60 years, whatever. So, I mean, they're built to last.
I still don't understand how an airplane takes off and flies. I just know that
it's
when I fly, I pray for people who had anything to do with this plane taking off, flying, and landing.
Right. Well,
pilots, co-pilots.
We had C5s come in a couple times, and we checked those out. And the civilian company I worked for, we did some 747 stuff and 757s. We didn't have the at the time. They didn't have the 777s out, the big ones now. But yeah, I mean a C5. I mean,
now what does C5 stand for? I hear a lot of people.
It's a cargo plane,
and like the Y stands for like the Y-22.
Oh, the YF. The Y is experimental. It's F-22 and F-3. They at the time when I was in, it was the YF because it's an experimental plane.
Okay.
So
people throw around all these letters and
numbers. 22. I'm surprised I remember.
And I just nod. To be honest with you, I know exactly what you're talking about, sir.
But yeah, this I don't know why they give planes those numbers. Like a B-52. Or
there has to be somebody who knows that, right?
Yeah, I guess.
I mean, somewhere
maybe the engineer that draws them up, I don't know, designs them or
maybe
something.
Maybe his initial. Yeah. No, it can't be anything that simple. Everything means something.
No, it's got to be more than that. Because I mean, the Air Force had the F-15 and 16. Mm-hmm. What happened to those in between? Because it was 22 and 23.
That's a good point. They didn't make
and then they had the SR-71 came out.
SR. Now that stands for.
That's a reconnaissance plane. SR-7. You know what the SR-71 is? That's the one on the X-Men.
Never seen it.
Well,
I've never seen X-Men.
You've probably seen that plane before.
I'm sure.
It's the one that the fastest airplane ever built.
Is it really?
Yeah. It's got I think it's still classified how fast that thing would go, but it broke.
You're going to notice, man.
It went from California to New York in an hour. Yeah.
What?
Yeah.
You can't get to Charlotte in an hour.
Yeah. This is the airplane that they flew up, spy plane. So
okay.
Super, super fast. Yeah.
If you have
they have to when it's on the ground, it leaks fuel out. They have to cone it off because the fuel's dripping out of it because it goes so fast that the metal expands. And seal. Oops, sorry. You think I would know better? It seals the seals up and
I got you.
Gas, but the whole time it's sitting on the ground,
it's just leaking.
It's dripping gas everywhere.
Just be sure to check the fuel hand on that bad boy before we crank this thing up.
You got to be careful. There's shock, static electricity and stuff. So
This is not making me comfortable for any time I fly again.
Man. No, but civilian planes, I mean, they're the same way. I mean, the place I worked for the civilian company, you've probably seen pictures of it. They around that time, actually, after Desert Storm and stuff, a lot of airlines were struggling financially. They were going out of business left and right, and basically, a lot of the planes from the airlines aren't owned by the airlines; they're owned by leasing companies. The leasing companies were repoing these planes, and they were sending them to us. We would basically take all the fuel, take everything out of them, wrap them up, and park them in the middle of the desert. So you've probably seen these photos of these hundreds of planes out in the middle of the desert just sitting there all wrapped up.
You had the auto auction of planes, basically.
Yeah, that's exactly what it was. And then you would have customers come in and want to buy these planes. So we would get the planes back out, get them ready to, for.
Now, do they still have like seats in them and all that kind of stuff?
Oh yeah,
you guys strip them down?
No. We just basically take the fluids out of them and winterize them. Basically, but it was in the desert. But that's part of why they parked them in the desert because.
Dude, somebody shows up with a boatload of cash to buy a plane like that. I'm gonna have to scratch my head and be like, "What?"
You wouldn't believe it, man. We probably. This short time I worked there, we had a bunch of Colombians coming over from Colombia,
was going to say.
And they were buying those planes up, and God, the test flights, it scared me to death. I mean, I still have nightmares sometime about crashing airplanes because I would watch these guys try to land these planes and just,
would they make it?
Yeah, but they did. You wonder. You talk about damage and resiliency. I mean, they would slam these things into the runway. Sometimes you just think, how is that plane not broken half?
Well, it's like if you ever watched the Tom Cruise movie American Made. They had to do that short little runway, and they were trying to fly all the drugs out. Right, and so right there at the edge of the runway, the jungle, they had all this crash debris, and he was like, "I gotta take this plane with all that weight and go." So
we had customers from all over. One of the funnier stories is we had a plane come in from Yugoslavia and Serbia. One of those. At the time, there was a lot of bad stuff going on over there. And they asked me to drive the flight crew to LAX because they were supposed to get back on a plane and go somewhere else and be sent back. And evidently, after I dropped them off, they got in a van and went somewhere else. And the word I got was they defected. I think they ended up at the U.S. Embassy or something. And they were like, they came in and questioned me. They were like, where did you take those guys? And I said, I dropped them off at the terminal.
You're like, hey, man.
Terminal at the airport.
I was told to go to Terminal D. It's what I did.
I dropped them off.
I'm just working a job.
But an even funnier thing about it was, this was before the days of GPS, and I wasn't really that familiar with Los Angeles anyway. I mean, I went down there, to party and stuff, but not too many times to the airport. It wasn't. It was like the week after the Rodney King riots.
Oh shit!
And
that's not where you want to be, dude.
Well, I'm a little bit lost, and I'm riding around this van with all these Serbians or whatever they were, Yugoslavia, I don't know, and.
Why don't you just draw a bunch of white dudes in here with arrows and flashing
buildings
lights?
Were still smoldering.
Smoldering, yeah.
And I remember pulling in to like a liquor store parking lot or something and asking a guy, "Hey, buddy, where's the airport?" And here I am with my southern accent,
with the
where's the airport around here?
With the van full of Serbians, jeez,
and
who defected, and you don't even know.
Yeah, but anyway, I never heard any more about that.
Like there's a lot of laws that you were breaking, you had no idea.
Hey, man, I was just driving the bus, man. It was time and a half. That's all I knew. I was like, time and a half, I'm there.
I'll take them. Absolutely. Not a problem. I'll drive this thing to the burning city. I don't see a problem with it.
Thank God for GPS is all I can say now.
So you spent 4 years and then you came back to Statesville?
Yeah. The company I was working, I actually got out of the service. I got a full-time position with the company that I was working for part-time at the airport. And it didn't last 6 months, and they laid us off.
Oh, really?
Well, it was just a bad time for the industry, and I tried to stay out in California, but if anybody's ever been out to California, it's not cheap.
Hell no.
And I remember the town I lived in. They had opened up a new Red Lobster, and I was like, well, maybe I'll go over to this Red Lobster and try to get a bartending job or a cook job, and hold me over until. They can call me back.
Yeah.
Because they said they were going to call us back, but who knew? And I remember like 600 people showed up
to Red Lobster.
That Red Lobster for jobs. And I was like, yeah. I went straight from there to the U-Haul place and rented me a U-Haul trailer. And came on back to get ONC. And I'm glad I did. I mean, California wasn't really a place for me to live.
Yeah. I mean, I go to California sometimes for work. It's okay to visit, but I like coming home.
Yeah.
I really enjoy New York.
Yeah.
But I like coming
Right,
home. You know,
right,
I could
right.
definitely, you know, when I was going to win the 1.6 billion on the Mega Millions,
Yeah.
was definitely going to have a place up there. To go
Yeah,
visit.
yeah.
But
I had
not
me a Manhattan apartment picked out. You know,
Exactly.
So, but it just didn't pan out. I had to call the agent back and say cancel.
Cancel that. Cancel that
Sorry.
appointment. Yeah. Cancel the jet. Going up there checking it out. So, but you've opened several businesses around Statesville, like you were saying. You've done the Shindigs and you've done a few restaurants too. And
Well,
some
you know,
bars.
that took a while to get to. I came back and from the military, and I ended up getting a job working for Sarah Lee because I couldn't get a job working on the airplanes anywhere. I remember I put out 50 resumes and got like one response, you know. And so I came back and I got a job working for Sarah Lee, and I ended up working there for 5 years. Miserable the whole 5 years, pretty much. Got a job offer to go to another company and do the same thing. I did industrial maintenance, which you know, the way I got the industrial maintenance was basically when they interviewed me, they say, well, you know, how does a aircraft mechanic transfer to building maintenance?
Yeah.
And I basically told them, well, there's a toilet on the plane, there's a kitchen on the plane, there's there's walls, there's everything, electrical,
Yeah.
Plumbing, everything. So
It's a moving building.
yeah, basically, and that's,
or home,
and that's
or
kind of how I
whatever
got
else.
the job. You know, the guy. But anyway, after Sarah Lee, I went to work for another company for 5 years, and that's when I opened Shindigs. About 3 or 4 years into that company, and my wife at the time, she operated it during the day, the store. And then I did all the work when I came home, all the deliveries, all that, and then DJ too. I really just put a lot of work into it, but it was a pretty amazing process. At the time, Statesville was a pretty good place to do business. I had, you know, people say it's the best now, but at that time it was good too. I thought it was, you know, the Clinton years, economy was good, and a lot of people were partying, a lot of people were getting married. It was a good right business at the right time.
Gotcha.
And I got a ton of support from the local chamber of commerce in doing that, and it just started taking off. You know, next thing I know, I had, you know, moved 2 or 3 times. I went from a 500 square foot building to a 10,000 square foot building.
Because you were over there near Bell and Howard for a while. And
yeah, that's the last place I was. Yeah, I went.
Okay.
That was the 10,000 square foot.
And I feel like maybe you guys were near Rudy's Sport Locker at some point, the old Rudy's building somewhere.
Yeah, that's where we started. That was
Is it
in
really?
the little bank building. It was 500 square feet, and it was basically just an office, and we kept the equipment somewhere else.
I got you.
And then, yeah, that's where I started, and went from there.
So how do you jump from there to restaurants?
Well, I got out of the rental business. I sold it actually, and you know, made a decent profit. I had a young daughter at the time, and me and a friend was just talking one day about, you know, and being into music. I really, you know, loved live bands, and at the time there was no music scene in Statesville,
None whatsoever.
none. And
It's terrible.
And I wanted a venue. I said I'd love to have a bar that can bring in some, you know, bigger name entertainment in Statesville. And that's where the Crossroads nightlife came into. It was supposed to be, actually, it was the Crossroads Bar and Grill.
Okay.
Until we ended up running into some trouble with the county.
Oh, really?
Yeah, they came in and said we couldn't have live entertainment in the facility, and we went back and forth, and it just turned into a mess. Really didn't.
Why the hell could you not have live entertainment at a?
Lo and behold, to me, in July of the same year, we had signed the lease in August.
Yeah.
But in July of that year, North Carolina put in an emergency regulation into the building codes because of.
Is that because of the white snake?
You guessed it. I knew
Yep.
you would, because
Yep.
you're a child of it. Exactly right. If you had a more than 3,000 square foot facility, you had to have sprinkler
Actually, it was a
system.
Great White, wasn't it?
It was Great White.
It was a Great White. Yeah.
In was it Pennsylvania?
It was
or somewhere up there.
like Staten Island, Pennsylvania,
Yeah,
somewhere up north.
northeast.
Yeah.
And all those people died.
Right.
And North Carolina decided they were going to put in this emergency, and I understood it in a way, but you know, it was like, if it's like a small place like Delaney's, for instance. No disrespect to them, I love Delaney's, but you know, it's 1,500 square feet.
Right.
They could put a band in there and pack in 1,000 people in there, however many. But, our venue was almost 7,000 square feet, and we couldn't have a band in there.
Was it just because where the entrance and exit doors are located?
No, sprinkler system.
Y'all didn't have a sprinkler system, but they did. Let me tell you
no, Delane's didn't.
Oh, they didn't?
Mm-mm. That was the thing.
They were grandfathered in.
So they wanted you not to go and have a big giant building and put thousands of people in it and have a big band. They were trying to regulate these venues.
Well, let me tell you where you go and you feel like you're going to die. I love the venue. I hope it stays there for a long time. It's really fun, and that's the Comedy Zone down there at the Music Factory.
Oh, yeah.
Have you been there?
I've been to Music Factory, but not inside the Comedy Zone.
You'll go down there, man, and you're down there in the dungeon. And it's a low ceiling.
Yeah.
And you have to go down these tiny stairs, and it's narrow. And you're looking around. You're like, all right, there's a couple hundred people in here. When this thing catches fire, how the hell am I getting out?
Yeah.
Because, I'm not a claustrophobic person by any means. However, I was looking for exits. Like, all right, so survival of the fittest. I'm grabbing you, honey, and we're getting the hell out of here because we're going to be able to beat those people. You just want to be last.
Right. Yeah, I've never been there, but I've been in some similar
and they could have sprinklers, man. But
well, they're grandfathered in. Either that or it's under 3,000 square feet. So that's the
I bet
thing.
it is. Man.
Yeah,
that's a tight
spot and that's how they get away with it. But you can have it if it's under 3,000 square feet, but if it's over 3,000, it didn't really make a lot of sense to me. But,
if you guys go to the Comedy Zone, you know exactly what I'm talking about. If you haven't been there when you go, you're going to remember this episode and you'll be like, shit, he was right.
Yeah.
So, what's one of the businesses in Statesville that you was about to start or was going to take off but never come to fruition?
Well, after the Crossroads, after about 3 years of that nightmare. Well, I shouldn't say nightmare.
It's a pretty popular spot.
Well, it's like I told my partner the day we finally got open. We had a huge crowd coming in, and I told him, I said, man, this is you don't know many men that don't have this kind of fantasy about owning a bar,
Sure.
A lot of guys would, everybody, guys put them in their house,
That's right.
A little
in their man cave. That's
a
it.
little bar, I said, man, we're living a dream here. We just opened this nice bar, it looked good in there. But after a while it just got to, bad people ruin stuff,
Sure.
and when there's alcohol involved and I'm not a huge drinker and neither was my partner. And part of that was good because some of the bars that I'd experienced in our area, it's kind of the drunkest person in the bar was the bar owner usually. And I was like, well, that's why these bars aren't lasting because these guys are getting drunk and they're not taking care of business. I'm not going to be like that.
Right.
We don't drink in the bar that we own, if we were working, we were very tight and had our regulations, but you just can't control people, it's just
things get out of hand.
Yeah.
Man.
When there's alcohol and drugs, and
sure.
And,
yeah, because you got to keep an eye on what's going on in the bathrooms, who's going in.
Right. It was amazing.
Those slick handshakes.
Somebody whisper in your ear, there's somebody doing something illegal in the bathroom. And, and it's after a while, it just, you'd have 3 or 4 good nights. And then that one bad one would just kind of set on you the wrong way. And we had some instances where some people got hurt.
Yeah.
And it was just like, I think maybe, 3 years is enough for me. And then back to your question, about 6 months after I sold out of that, which my partner kept it open for a while and under a couple different names, but he had a really hard time then. We had totally different business ideas and his didn't work any better than mine did,
right.
Even though he thought they would, but he didn't last long at all after I left. But I opened up what was my vision of what I wanted, and that was the Artisan Cafe, which was a restaurant slash art gallery.
That was in the Old Maple House, right?
Old Maple House, and a music venue too, but on a real super small scale. I mean, we only had probably I think 60 or 75 people was our capacity. So, but
you might have been a little ahead of your time.
Maybe
for that,
yeah.
I think now something like that could work.
We were not to blow my own horn, but we had craft beers in there, and I mean, we had Green Man in there from Asheville. We had a lot of craft beers that you couldn't get anywhere. I mean, you didn't go into Tucker's and get a Green Man, or Natty Green or whatever. So we had that, it was small, so we didn't have we didn't have the Twisted Oak selection,
right?
Where they got 50
selections on tap.
Yeah, 50 different ones. And actually, at the time, there wasn't that many. There
sure. There's been a huge boom.
Yeah, huge boom. So, but and actually, that was one thing. It was kind of helping us a little bit. It was starting to take hold, but unfortunately. We had a great lunch business, the ground, I shouldn't say, the elderly ladies loved it.
I enjoyed it.
A lot of the office people would come in there and stuff. We'd have one really almost a full sold out lunch crowd, but it was usually like a one-off, turnover, and then it would empty. And profit margins are so tight with restaurants. It was, it was slim. And then what would happen with our dinners was, we'd have 2 tables show up for dinner.
What was
and
it?
That was just, killed us.
It is you would know this more than I would, but the statistic is basically
90%.
But a restaurant has like an 8% profit margin that it has to run off of to make it. It's very slim.
No, well, your food cost generally, from what if I remember the numbers right, like Outback has the highest food cost of all your restaurants.
Outback does.
Yeah. And guess who has the lowest?
McDonald's?
No.
Chick-fil-A.
Cracker Barrel. Seriously, it has one of the lowest food costs.
How is that?
Well, yeah, I mean, those little bowls, I mean, I remember when, like I said, what are they going to do? Sue us? I mean,
right.
But
don't worry, there's only 17
you used to
people
go to Cracker Barrel and you get a bowl. It's kind of like the shrinking cereal box. The bowls would be the same diameter, but they'd be half as.
Right.
They were almost basically a plate.
Right.
The last time I went in there, so they were just they measure
portion size,
measure and weight constantly. I had a friend that was a manager of Cracker Barrel. He said he spent all of his time measuring.
Really? So they weigh it?
Weigh it. Yeah, they measure. Well, they had portion control, but the cooks were supposed to do it. But he would have to go back there and constantly QA on quality assurance, go in and measure and check, make sure they weren't putting
that little too heavy of a scoop.
Yep.
For now, every time I'm at Cracker Barrel, I'm sending it back, and I'm saying, I think you cheated me on that scoop.
Cheaper ingredients and stuff like that. Whereas Outback has one of the highest in the industry because of they make their sauces from scratch.
I didn't know that.
Well, that's why for the longest time Outback was only open for dinner, and that's what. But they had a first shift. Their first shift did nothing but prep for dinner. They would come in and make all their salad dressings, all their sauces, and I don't know if that's still their business plan, but that's what they did. Yeah.
Well, if nothing else, I've learned something here.
Yeah. So
Outback has the most. I wouldn't have done.
Yeah. I wouldn't say the most, but one of the highest
it's high.
in the industry. Yeah.
And then so with all the ins and outs of you opening businesses, obviously you have to get involved or you have meetings of getting permits. So you maybe that by default kind of swung you into.
You're exactly right.
Into the political arena. You jumped into
dealings with the county, with the bar. It seems like every business I've ever had, including the flea market now, which we didn't even get into that. But most people know what I've got going on with that. Sign ordinances, that was a huge thing, went rounds with.
So what do you mean? Like, I know there's what do you mean by the sign ordinance?
Well, at one time, Statesville had a guy, that's all he did was, check on your signs, sizes.
So that was his
permits,
job.
Yeah, and I understand that to a point, but it just got to it got to be concerning to me that a lot of times it seemed like with the bar in the county, it seemed like to me that they weren't looking for a way to help us get open. They were looking for a way to keep us from opening. And I mean, it really seemed like that. And matter of fact, I'll tell the story. I don't mind telling it.
Please do.
We were having some issues. The fire marshal had approved us already. The Statesville City fire marshal had approved us to be open. One of the county guys rode by and seen our sign and said he wanted to inspect. And so he called the fire marshal and said, set up an appointment for me to look. So the fire marshal called and said the county wants to come in and look at what you're doing in there. I said, okay. So they came in. And the guy was like, you might have to do this, you might have to do that, you might have to do this, blah, blah, blah. You might have to move the exits. And I was like, well. And
how the hell do you move exits?
Yeah. And I was like, well, this place was a restaurant before. Well, you're serving alcohol. Well, they served alcohol in here before. No, Shoney's didn't. I said, well, it was a Chinese restaurant that did serve alcohol and had ABC permits. And every time, it's human nature. If somebody
did he come in there like to have a pissing contest with you?
Pretty much, yeah.
Like to just because he can.
And really, my thoughts were it was a moral issue with him, and some other people had told me because of what we were doing that they thought that too. I don't have any proof of it, of course.
Right.
But it was just back and forth, and he told us we had to hire an architect, and we hired an architect, paid $3,000 for an architect. The architect told me, what did you hire me for? And, it was just one thing after another. And finally, after about 2 months of paying rent and not be able to open, I was super frustrated. We called his supervisor one day, and I left a message. I said, listen, he's been out here again. I said, giving us the runaround. I said, well, we're not trying to be difficult. We just want to know what we have to do. Yeah. And we keep getting mites. You might. I mean,
mites grow on chicken's ass.
Yeah. I said, can we get a freaking, something in writing saying you have to do this? I said, every time I meet with this guy, he's telling me we might have to do this, might have to do that. I said, we're going broke here. And I left a message on the answer machine. Well, come to find out, he was on vacation. And the next one in line was the guy I was dealing with. He got the message, comes right out to the building and puts a stop work order on our front door. Can't even go inside the building. We can't paint. We can't do anything for 30 days. And they wouldn't lift it. And
that's just because he could.
Yeah. And I've never been so frustrated. It was almost to a point where we were going to give up on it, but we had a lot of time and money invested, and it was like, we can't give up. Right. And after the 30 days, we just kind of backed down. And next thing you know, we had a guy coming in for an inspection, a city inspector, and he came in, our county inspector came in to sign off on it or to inspect, to sign off. And he asked me, he said, what did they tell you I'm supposed to be looking at? And
mites.
I said,
there's a shitload of mites.
I said, well, from what I got, the placement of the tables and chairs, and that's pretty much what it came down to, is where the tables and chairs were.
I don't know if people at home can see me look. This is ridiculous.
Yeah, so
dude.
That was my friend. And I was to a point, I was so angry. Well, what really saved me from throwing a fit was just I was so glad to be open, I was like,
you can see the light at the end of the tunnel.
Well, I was like, we're finally going to open and get this going. So it kind of chilled me from really going ballistic and going after people, because I was, I'm going to the governor.
We're going everywhere.
Yeah, because this is ridiculous, and I'd heard from other business owners when we'd go into the county office. And tell them that you wanted to open a business, that they would give you this packet. And matter of fact, they even gave us the same packet. And you dig into this packet, and there was like, you have to have site plans, architect plans, like this crazy stuff that you had to do. But for 90% of the businesses, if you weren't doing anything to the business other than finishes, what they call finishes, then you didn't have to do all that. So I thought to myself, how many poor people's dreams were crushed by going into this office and having a secretary just give you this packet, which would be you look at it and you're thinking, this is $100,000 right off the bat,
Yeah, and so, like him or not, but isn't that one of the things that the current administration is trying to get rid of some of all those regulations, because the regular Joe Schmo guy like you and I, we have a dream, we want to go do this, but they hand down this stack of paper, and it's like, all right, well, there's your first 100,000, and that's just to that's not even to start the business.
And then it ends up being like I said, like he told us we needed an architect when we didn't, and how many people go hire an architect, and once you spend that money, that's money you could put towards advertising, stock for your new business, that money that we wasted getting open for 3 months, who knows what we could have done with it to improve our business and our bottom line. But, like I said.
So that is probably what gave you the kickstart that led you to.
Well, that, and then like I said, at the time when I decided to run for city council, there was a lot of things going on in Statesville at the time. It was actually there was a lot of good things were happening, but it seemed like there was the people of Statesville really didn't know these things were going on, or there was a lot of surprises. And I thought to myself, with the days of social media, why come we're not seeing these stories on in the paper?
Yeah.
For prime example is the park issue.
Yep.
Nobody knew about it, and I even myself, I thought I was pretty up on current events and what was going on in the city. Whether you like it or not, it's not that wasn't the issue for me. It was let people know.
Lack of transparency, maybe?
or just not getting information out there. And I started looking into it. I was like, well, how many people in our local government have social media pages?
Yeah.
And, none of them, nobody had social media pages. Nobody, was putting this stuff out there.
And that's probably,
and there was actually one guy that did. And I'd asked him, I said, on social media, I said, why come, you don't use your social media for, how about just saying, hey, this is an issue that's coming up.
Yeah.
What do you guys think about it?
Sure.
And ask your friends on Facebook.
Letting the people know.
And he just, he didn't want to get into it. Basically what I got from
They got
him.
the clamp down on them.
Well, you want to have that title and
right.
That paycheck, which, I mentioned paycheck one time when I was running for city council, and a couple of guys,
oh, you can't mention that.
Well, yeah, you're not supposed to mention that you get paid.
Well, do they think people are stupid and they don't know?
Maybe.
I guess so.
I think maybe a lot of people didn't know that the city council people or government officials get paid. Honestly, I don't think any of them do it for the money.
Right,
right. But you do.
You do get money for it.
And that's the thing, about politics, and that's what drew me to the city council more than anything. It is an elected office, but it's it's supposed to be more of a job than a political position,
right? Because
you don't run under a party affiliation. When your name's on the ballot for city council, there's no D or R, I's or anything. They don't publish your political affiliation.
Right. Yeah. What party you're
now,
affiliated with.
Of course it is important to a lot of people.
Absolutely.
Because,
yeah.
They,
I think it's better. I don't think you should.
Well, I don't either. And the funny thing about it, and in my experience with it, is that the people that we have in office, and we've had for a lot of them for a lot of years, that they don't follow their political beliefs locally and the decisions they make locally. And, so that was one of my things is like, I tried to tell people, ask them about the issues, I had a lady tell me one time, she said, "You're not a registered Republican. I'm not voting for you."
I believe it.
And I was like, well, why not? This isn't, an affiliation, political affiliated position, but I don't care. I'm not voting for you if you're not a Republican, and
there's a lot of
even though, I felt that most of my issues were more in line with the Republican Party than the Republicans that were actually sitting in office. And I still say that.
I want to back up a second too, because you mentioned the sign sizes and whatnot, and there's an issue going on right now with Camping World and the size of the flag.
It was an issue when I was running.
Right, and it's an issue that doesn't seem to be resolved, and there's a ton of people. I would say I'd love to see the city actually do a real poll. Let's, challenge a record landmark to do a poll for city representation of what do the people want. And I think it would be overwhelming that people who took the poll that would vote for having
it wouldn't even be overwhelming. It would be,
it'd be a majority.
The people that are against it are minuscule. It's nobody's against it really.
So then explain to me, because you have a bit more insight than I do, and I understand that there were there is a city ordinance that was established, and I understand, if I understand correctly, people want to compare the flag that they're flying at Camping World to the flag that flies on top of Bill and Howard. But that was supposedly grandfathered in. Okay, but was that flag size grandfathered in under Bell and Howard? But that business has changed hands. So is it still grandfathered in?
It was. The thing was, there wasn't an ordinance against the size of a flag.
Right. So even better. So why make one?
Well, that's the point that I tried to make when I was running, and it was an issue then. And I think we had this discussion, the other day. People didn't, pay attention to it. You know what I mean? 3 of the 4 people that voted for it got into office.
Oh, I know.
Got elected.
One's in my district,
and they were against it at that time.
And he will not get my vote when he runs again.
Yeah, but people didn't know. People didn't listen. And they were too busy, like I said before, voting for people that weren't on the ballot.
But the interesting thing is, and I almost wonder too, if did they make the grandfather in? Did they make this flag ordinance at the time that they knew Camping World was coming in?
No.
So Camping World was not here yet.
This was just something that somebody somewhere, I don't know the exact date and time that it was originated, but it was just something that was put into the books. I mean, that's what makes no sense about it.
It's such a random, that's what I'm saying. Somebody drives by and sees
by the time, it was in effect when the Camping World originally went to
it was already in effect.
It was already in effect. So that means they wrote it when nobody was asking for it.
When no one was asking for it.
There was no, reason to write it. It's like, let's prevent something from happening that's not going to happen. I always tell people that a lot of people don't know, if you ride down 70 or 40, and you go by Walmart exit, you see big giant Red Lobster sign, big giant Cracker Barrel. You see it, and all of a sudden, if you look at Logan's, they got this little tiny sign.
Yep.
Well, somebody at some point in time in Statesville got the bright idea to regulate signs to a 4x8 size. Well, at the time, here comes Logan's in. They're remodeling Logan's, setting it up. There's a 4x8 ordinance. They have to put a little tiny sign up, even though their neighbors have these big, huge signs all around them. They have to do that. Well, at some point in time, and some of this is rumor, some of it I think is true. Olive Garden and Outback both were wanting to come to Statesville. From what I understand, Olive Garden was looking at the old Italian oven where the Hooters building. Yeah, and then Outback wanted to be somewhere. On the interstate,
because that's a huge building that's just sitting there rotting away.
Well, that 4x8 ordinance, they said we can't do that. We got to have a big sign. The city of Statesville said no. Well, it got to be to a point where people were getting wind of why aren't these restaurants businesses coming to Statesville? And then it kind of got a little buzz about the sign ordinance.
Right.
And all of a sudden it's like, okay, this is hurting us. So what are we going to do about it? So they changed it. And I don't know if they changed it the next time Outback came back through. Yeah. I think Outback did have something to do with it. They changed the 4x8, but it's on interstate businesses only.
Okay. So what I'm hearing is the actual city could adjust the ordinance if they wanted to.
And when I was in the party rental business, an example was Chick-fil-A was opening in Statesville, and they came to me and they said, Julius, we want big giant balloons, we want pennant flagging, we want this parking lot red. So, okay, we're going to do it. Well, here comes the city. You can't put up panic flagging. You can't do the balloons. You can't do this. Can't do that. And I'm like, well, what do you mean? There's every car lot in town's got this. There's regulations for the interstate businesses, car lots and such can do those things. For instance, Randy Marion puts the big giant Santa Claus on the roof. Is there a regulation against that? No. I mean, so when you regulate the flag, is that next? Okay, now you can't put up. You can put up Santa, but he can't be so big, I mean, and if they wanted to regulate the flag, I can understand if you got a building downtown, right? Somebody wants to hang a big giant flag, it's going to drag the sidewalk.
Yeah. Well, first of all,
you just got to use common sense.
Well, a lot of people don't, and I've read a lot of social media comments, and I've been, this is the one thing that people will say. Well, what about if everybody, all the business in downtown, put a huge flag like that? Number one. For the people who say that, have you called and quoted what a tennis court size flag would cost.
Right.
And how many businesses downtown are going to pay that?
I think it was over $100,000.
It is. Yeah. Number two, are they going to pay for the huge pole to be erected and put into the ground to fly it? No. So what business downtown is going to spend over $100,000 to fly a tennis court size flag? And zero. That's the answer.
Well, like I'm saying already, there's different regulations for that.
Of course,
downtown and interstate businesses already have different sign regulations.
Right, so they can't do it.
So what's the difference? The councilman that I'm referring to, that was part of the thing, is they're not using it for patriotic reasons. They're using it for business, for a sign.
That's part of their brand.
Who cares? Well, who cares if they're using it for a sign? Let them have as big a sign as they want, as long as it's respectful and it's, you know.
So I guess my rebuttal,
not to mention it's a flag.
My rebuttal to that would be: does that mean every company that uses a flag in the background, or uses Patriot or Liberty or a bald eagle, and does that mean that they're using that as a ploy and they're not really patriotic?
Yeah, that's exactly.
So define what you have to be patriotic. Like, you're a business owner, but you also served in the military. Right. So I would say that you probably have more right than me if I opened up a business to fly a big-ass American flag if you wanted to. Maybe even more so than a councilman who told you that.
Right.
I just think it's a completely arbitrary thing, and you could fly. There's nothing hurting it. And the fact that it's just another stain on us that you can go 10 more miles down the road and see that big American flag flying in Mooresville, and people wonder around, I can argue for it, and I can understand it for arguing against it, and I've actually emailed the mayor and asked him to come on the show, because I would like to know him more as a person and as a human. I think it'd be nice to have,
our mayor actually held the sign when they put it up.
At Camping World?
Yeah.
He held the flag?
Yeah, he actually was
hilarious.
One of the people that held it. In his
but ask him
defense,
about.
I don't know if he knew that it was, because they upped the size of the regulation for Camping World, but just not to what they wanted.
Not to what they fly.
Which to me was ridiculous. I mean, okay, they based the size that they upped it on to the size of Randy Marion's.
Right.
They said, well, we'll let you at least have it as big as Randy Marion's.
But that's not what
Randy
they fly.
Marion didn't even ask for that. It was just there, so they stuck it up. I mean, it wasn't something that it's part of their business.
The whole Patriot thing. Well, they're using it as their market. Well, that's what they do.
Well, it's just it's like I was telling a friend of mine the other day that's pretty involved in local politics. It's you just that's just something you can't win. I mean, you cannot win no matter what. You're not going to beat Camping World in this situation. They're going to be the winner, and we're going to be the losers. Our town is going to suffer. For this.
They'll pull out.
We're going to look like a laughing stock, and our town, we're in a transitional stage. I mean, we still have a lot of issues. People, there's the pro Statesville people, they love talking about how great it is, and it is great in a lot of aspects. But we still got a lot of work to do. And we need to go forward, not backwards.
Sure.
And and until we get people that have no, I think, how can I say this? I don't want to accuse anybody of anything, but the people that have made the decisions have the most to gain. And I think we need people that don't have anything to gain, especially financially. But more so that have the want the will of the people to come forward and the betterment of the town, not just one certain part of town.
Right.
And, like I said, I love downtown Statesville. I think they've done a lot of great things with it. But it's we're more than a city block,
Right.
And at some point in time, you got to start looking at the whole picture and get back to common sense. And one thing that came up since the last time I ran was our issues with stormwater. Statesville's got a stormwater crisis right now that I wasn't really familiar with.
So explain that.
Well, the more development you have, the more water runoff you have, and we've got some flooding issues going on, and and if it's this bad where it's at now, what's future development going to be? I mean, look at the Ingalls. It's already flooded already.
But didn't they buy? But wasn't that designated a flood zone anyway?
Yeah, it was. It was. But the city is responsible for flood water, and they just passed another fee. Another tax where the businesses have to pay so much based on their flood water per, how much they use. Now I'm sure Ingalls will have to pay certain.
How do you measure how much?
Don't ask me. It's very complex, and I probably shouldn't even talk about it because I don't know enough about it. But my point was that this issue's been known for years and years, and it's been put on the back burner for pretty stuff. And and I'm all for pretty stuff, but we had a lot of issues with crime, and the wastewater thing. It's just, you got to take care of the basics before you go doing all these other little projects, and they're going to spend money on more streetscape in the South Statesville area, and then raise your taxes to pay for the stormwater thing. What I mean? Shouldn't the money that's going to be used for that take care of the stormwater and not raise our taxes? But
yeah,
you got to take care of the basic needs. I mean, this town went undermanned and understaffed for years with our police department.
Oh, absolutely.
Our fire department was riding around with old trucks with duct tape on the windows, man. And I preach that stuff. That's a disgrace. I mean, it's not to mention, if somebody's riding through town and they see the pretty trees and flower pots and all this, it's fine. But here comes a fire truck and it's got duct tape on the windows. Are they? It's
kind of like putting lipstick on a pig.
Well, some people use that reference, but and I can see a little of both. I'm not saying you can't do anything to betterment, but the town. But
two things I want to go back to. Two comments, I guess, about the flag. Someone wrote on there about someone. It's so irritating. It's so irritating, and I read these comments, and it's just I'd sit there and my head almost explodes. But they're like, if you can make these adjustments for that flag size, then what's to stop someone from flying that size flag in their yard again? I would like to ask Marcus Lemonis throughout the country that you have flown that huge American flag. How many other huge flags have people said, well, Camping World can do it, so now I'm going to put this huge butterfly flag in my front yard?
There's one better than that. It's what if somebody puts out ISIS flag or
or a Confederate flag, what was another one? Or a swastika flag.
Well, and I had to, like I said, a discussion about this flag thing the other day, and I said, well, when you write if you can put a size, if you can put numbers, 25 by 40, you can put American flag only.
Sure.
I mean, that's it's as simple as that.
Oh yeah, but then you can't box them in. What if you want to do another flag?
Well, if you can box it in by number, you can box it in by
that's a good point.
A word. I mean, there's no argument for it. They can come up with this crap all they want.
But no one's going over here to Walmart and buying a tennis court size flag to put up in the yard that costs $9.99.
Oh, and it has to be engineers had to come in. How far does that pole go underground? How much ballast is under the ground? It's probably 50 yards of concrete underground.
People who throw that stuff out there aren't thinking. It's ridiculous.
That's generally when you get people comment like that, it's somebody that. It's a problem in all politics. People don't want to admit the person they vote for does something wrong. And I've never been that kind of person. We were talking earlier about the whole vote red, vote blue, whatever type thing. We gotta know who we're voting for. Not a color, not a. You got to vote for the person, what they stand for, because and you got to hold them accountable for it.
Well, that's just
and people don't want to say anything bad about the person that they voted for. They don't want to admit it, and to me, that just makes it. If you got a 30% voter turnout, nationwide, why do you have so many people that aren't coming out? Is it because they look at that stuff and they see it and they say, well, these people are crazy. They're afraid to call out who did,
or they think it doesn't matter,
or it doesn't matter,
they
right?
think hey, I'm going to vote Republican, but after the election night's over, how they manage themselves isn't really in line with what Republicans or conservatives think, or vice versa. Someone who leans left, once they get
it goes
in
both
office,
ways.
it goes both ways.
There was people that when Obama did something stupid, they wouldn't call him out on it. You know, and in my opinion, Obama should have. I think his biggest downfall was he didn't realize that he was going to be held to a different standard. And like it or not, he was, because of his skin color. I mean, there's still a lot of people in this country that going to judge you based on that.
Sure.
So little things like maybe playing, an extra round of golf here and there maybe shouldn't have been done. Presidents like Bill Clinton, he didn't vacation. He didn't do anything but work. Whether you like his policies or not.
Right.
He knew he was a guy from Arkansas that he needed to do a little something extra.
Here's something that I found very interesting, and there is a podcast called Slow Burn, and if you listen to the criticism that President Clinton was going through, especially during his first 2 years and first term, 80+% of that podcast, you could take the word Clinton out and you could throw the word Trump in.
Oh yeah,
and I was I listened to a lot of podcasts and I was riding to work and I was like, holy shit! They said he wasn't qualified. They said he wasn't presidential. Right. They said he surrounded himself with a bunch of people he knew that he was comfortable with, good old boys, and yes men. And I was like, damn, I feel like I've heard that.
But they say the same thing about Bush too. I mean, even to this day, I think there's a movie coming out about Bush and Cheney. Yeah,
the previews look great,
right? And it's basically just got Bush being, Cheney's his patsy, whatever. It's going to be he's leading Bush around by the nose in the movie. I know it's satire, but but there's probably that was the conception of most people. Most people thought Dick Cheney's running the country. Right. Bush is just here to say so.
He's just
no president in my lifetime has really gotten the respect I think they deserve.
Do you think that's getting? I don't know.
I'm for free press and telling it like it is, but so much of it we just don't need to hear. If Trump tells a blatant lie, do we need to talk about it all day on CNN?
what else are they going to do?
Well, unless does it affect some policy or does it affect the same thing with Bill Clinton. He's got some extracurricular activities going on. He's working. He's doing what whether you like his policies or not. Yes, you criticize him for that.
Sure,
but
well, everything now
start criticizing presidents' wives, and,
right? Things are tribal now, right?
Yeah,
it doesn't matter, and I didn't realize that until I really didn't start paying a lot of attention to politics until like 2006, 7, and 8, and then I started realizing, in my own opinion, in my view, people didn't really care anymore. Like, I feel like the whole racial divide, it's there. It's always going to be there. I feel like we've come a long way. We've gotten better as a country. We're never going to be perfect, okay? It's just not going to happen. No. But we can strive to be better. Yeah. But I feel like there's more people separated and divided today because of that little letter that goes behind the person on TV's name.
Yeah,
and it's amazing that you'll have families divided over how people vote on an election. You'll have friends defriend you on Facebook. You can't have a conversation with someone anymore, and you automatically just get labeled something.
I couldn't hardly stand to look at Facebook today with the nastiness on there, and the basically if you're not voting one way or another, and it wasn't about the person, I can't think that I've seen one post of somebody mentioning why you should vote for somebody other than a political commercial or a candidate.
Sure,
I haven't really seen anybody actually just get on there and say, hey, whether you're a Republican or Democrat, vote for this person because this is what they're about. I think they're qualified.
Right.
Vote for them for that. It wasn't. It was vote for this color.
Right.
Vote because I say you should.
Exactly. Well, and a lot of entertainers have been going to social media doing that. Swing left, vote left. Blue wave,
red wave,
whatever.
It's
but
like,
they don't.
R, D, and like I said, in this day and time, I mean, I don't think conservative or liberal stands up. I don't think those definitions are true at all in any case. I mean, you can say you are what you are. I mean, matter of fact, I know of I think 2 people on the ballot that I voted for today used to be different affiliations.
Really?
Yeah, and and that's what I'm saying. I mean, now if they was a Democrat 10 years ago, but now they're Republican, it's okay to vote for them, even though they probably have the same.
They're still
liberal. Even our president.
Well, right. I mean,
he was too. And not saying you can't change your mind. Well, I mean, I've changed my mind on a lot of government policies, or smaller government,
Have you noticed too, depending what you change your mind on, depending on who's judging you, you go, well, they changed their mind because of they're progressive in the way that they're thinking, good for them.
Right.
But if it's someone else who changes their mind, they're a flip flopper. They'll tell you what they want to hear.
Well, and like,
you can't
like
win.
I said earlier, that there's so many people that, I love seeing people get excited about voting.
Yeah,
absolutely. When I ran for office, 90% of what I pushed for was people to vote. Mm-hmm. And that's what broke my heart the most is as much as it wasn't about me. I never said to anybody, vote for me. I said, I'd answer any questions. I would say, vote for the person that you want to vote for. Vote for the person you think is most qualified, but vote.
Right.
And know who you're voting for. And then in turn, we get the low turnout, but extremely large, probably the most candidates ever, and the turnout
was
still,
said like 18%, 14%? It was
some miserable amount, and then half of like I told you before, there was one candidate that got like 200 votes that wasn't even running. She had dropped off the ballot. Unfortunately, when people drop out, they won't take them off the ballot. After you pay your $5 and register, you're on there.
You're on the ballot,
and that's a mistake that should be fixed. There's a lot of things with the whole process that should be fixed. I read a story on Facebook a minute ago before we came in here. A guy was saying how he was disturbed that he watched a caregiver bring in 4 or 5 different people to vote, mm-hmm. and basically the caregiver was filling out the things for him, mm-hmm. and he said he was listening to the questions they were asking the caregiver to fill it out. And one of them was, "Did I win?"
Did I win?
Yeah. So this was a person that was, the caregiver was.
They weren't necessarily all.
Yeah.
But
right,
I mean,
right.
look,
so,
people can talk about, and
what do you do? I mean, what do you do in that situation? That's what he was asking. He said, what do you do about this? It's,
it's their right. I mean, they can get their.
But in that instance, I can almost have a little bit more sympathy for. But when I was standing at the polls and somebody would walk up and I would hand them a business card and say, vote for me. Or this is me. I'm running for this office, and they went inside and voted for me. Honestly, I almost didn't really feel good about that. You know what I mean? And one of the things that some of the other candidates started doing was giving people lists.
I noticed that this go round.
You know me. Well, this is unaffiliated candidate. This wasn't, and that's what was so funny about it. You had candidates that might have been a Democrat giving people a list, telling them to vote for people that were probably Republicans. Not like I said, it wasn't on that list. But I saw that happening, and I'm thinking to myself, this makes no sense. But some of them that were passing the list around were putting people on the list that they thought had the best shot of winning. Versus the people that because they were putting people on the list that they didn't even know. I got put on a list as an alternate. And I told the guy, I said, man, take me off that list. I don't want to be on that list. I want people to vote for me because they know what I'm going to do. But I know for a fact that people voted for me just because I was at the polls every day.
Handing out and talking.
Because they would walk in and you would ask them, who are you voting for? Or you got, what are you? But I'm just here to vote. And when I was on Facebook today, and like I said, I love to see people voting, but I just had this kind of little feeling in my gut when I see them people with them stickers.
Yep.
Putting it on Facebook. Was it about, voting for the right person for the job, or was it about
Well, don't you think
getting that sticker on your shirt to put on Facebook?
Well, don't you think?
And unfortunately, I wonder.
Well, it's a movement, right? And a lot of people want to be involved in something.
Right.
They don't know why.
Yeah, but I mean, do you get that feeling when you've seen some of those people?
Well,
that it was about more of a sticker.
I noticed that
Facebook
more
post than it was.
Because we went and voted when the babies were first born. That was our first. And we took them through the thing, and
right.
And but I noticed more
I put a
people
Facebook post to me with my sticker.
But I noticed more people posting what I felt this year that they went and voted. Than 2 years previous. Right. But I don't. Yeah, I don't know if it's just because they want to be part of something or because they're being out there to be told to go do it.
Right.
I would.
That's the only thing that really worries me. Like I said,
I think that somehow or another we, especially in local politics. I don't know the answer. I'd like to know the answer. If somebody can point us in the right direction or has an idea. But I would like to know more like the candidates and what they believe and what they're like someone who's, has that seat. What's their voting record on certain stuff? I feel like that should be easy to find.
Well, it's really hard to communicate during that. And what happened to me is, we had 13 candidates running for 2 spots.
Yeah.
So we did these couple of forums, and they put us all up there and they would ask questions, but they're, really vague. You got like a minute and a half to state what you would do, how you felt about a certain thing, it was really, there was no debate. You couldn't, there was no debates in the local politics.
Maybe the next go round I should do a better job, and maybe I should just reach out and have them come on here and we'll have a discussion. There's no minute and a half.
I will tell you
frame.
that every single candidate and one of the about a year before I got involved with politics, I left this part out. I'd started a Facebook page because there was a lot of argument about politics, local politics, and you always got the people that chime in about the mall and this and that. Yeah. So I started this page. I called it the CAN page. It was Citizen Activists. I can't even remember now, network or something, but it was basically all local politics. In any store, I published the agenda, city council agendas on there. I published the voting. I published the elections results from past elections, and I was really wanted to inform people with it and get them excited about local politics. And about 2 or 3 months after I'd started it, they had the election. And it was an off-year election. It was for Ward 4, 1, and 6, 3 wards. So basically, you go to the polls and you vote for one person if you live in that ward. That's it.
Right.
So it's really hard to get people to go vote for just one vote. You walk in, check. You got 3 names. You pick one and you leave. But 595 people turned out to vote for those 3 seats, and one of the guys that won it from my ward received less than 200 votes. He had been in office for 28 years and never gotten more than 200 or 300 votes. And I thought to myself, this is crazy. And so I kept on with the page for another year. And then you started getting people, because I was the moderator, people would say, well, Julius, you need to run. And I was like, well, I'm running my mouth.
Right.
Maybe I should put my money, put my work where my mouth is. I didn't have no money. And I was wondering another reason why I didn't win, for 2, probably because
you got it.
Certain people put in a lot of money.
It has to be.
There was candidates that actually spent more on the campaigning than you make in the 4 years that you
get out of here. Now there would have to be a reason,
right? And that's what my point was. Is why are these people running? What do they have to gain from it?
Yeah.
And the best compliment I received when I was running was from Roger Seacrest, who was running for Ward 3 at the time. And he told me, he said, Julius, he said, out of anybody that's running, you really have the less to gain, other than doing for the people. And I just took that as a huge compliment. I was like, thank you, Roger. That's what I want.
Right.
I said, as a DJ, the number one rule is you never play what you like. You play what your customer likes.
Right.
And if I was on city council and something comes up, hey, they're going to, you come out here on 115 in front of my flea market, and they're going to put up, gold sidewalks and and palm trees. As much as I'd say, hey man, that would be nice. I'd love that, man.
Right.
That'd
my
be
property
good for
value
business.
and all these little things I own around
here. Great
here.
for my business.
Right.
But every person in town saying, what? Bullshit.
Of course. Yeah.
And that's but that's happened in Statesville a lot of times, and even if that wasn't the case, the way it's perceived,
sure.
Because the people that voted for most of the money that's been spent, it's been spent in the areas that they have a stake in. So, I mean,
of course,
you can say, we got a sculpture park right here. Here's so and so's office right above it. It's like, that might be a little bit of a conflict.
Could be,
maybe not.
Maybe not.
I mean,
you
can't confuse, but you also have to, as that person, if you don't have those. That's not your agenda. Which, like I said, I don't think it was all agenda. I think these projects were done thinking it would be ultimately good, and some of them were. I mean, like I said, the streetscape is much as people are against it.
I was against it. I couldn't see the vision.
Well,
it didn't make sense.
I'm still against it to a point. There's a couple problems with it, and like I said before, people got to be able to admit there's something wrong with it.
Sure.
They made some mistakes with the streetscape.
What's
and if
one
they
of the
would
things
make
that you've noticed that's a problem?
Well, handicap parking is a huge issue. The amount of senior citizens that we have coming to this flea market just because they can get in here is incredible. I mean,
a good point.
You see walkers. The biggest thing is the networking. They didn't put network cables under the sidewalks. They left that part out. And then the excess of some of the stuff that's there. Why does the American Renaissance School have 12 flower pots in front of it? If you go, there's actually 12 flower pots in front of one building. And I see, and like I said, there's the sidewalks being wider, the brick, some of the stuff is great. It looks nice. The benches I think were a good quality.
Absolutely.
Definitely the seating areas for the restaurants, Delaney's. I mean,
wonderful
huge.
Idea. Genius.
Yeah, huge.
It makes more people want to. I mean, me and my wife want to go downtown. And take the kids for a walk and all that.
But stuff like that where you have one bench and you got two big giant flower pots with flowers growing into them that you can barely sit on the bench because it's got so much growth on it. Just stuff like that, and not that it's bad, but why couldn't they have stretched that out a little bit more? Take some of those pots and put them further down Center Street, and get more for your buck. That was one of my bigger issues.
I'm sure there has to. I mean, I wonder if it's almost like a privacy. To protect the school was a barrier. Not a barrier.
I have no idea. But you'll see that in a lot of different. The biggest number one for me was, and I found this through some investigation and brought it up in the election, and it wasn't popular. I really, it wasn't. I have 3 kids, and I've struggled with there's nothing to do for kids in this town. One of my things was, I proposed a skate park and a parkour park, which the parkour thing is innovative. It's something new. Everybody's got a skate park, but how about skate/parkour?
Now, what's parkour?
Where they jump across the stuff. They actually really, really popular in Europe. They're popping up all over Europe.
I have to look it up. I haven't seen it.
Yeah. There's quite a few of them in America too.
We need a Google guy, who sits there and Googles for us to show me this stuff.
So I don't look it up. Look it up. But it's really cool. It's innovative, and that's what my thoughts were. Why don't we do something nobody else has?
Yeah.
Let's beat them to the punch this time. But anyway, back to what I was saying. The park changed the name. There was a big issue about that. A lot of screaming. One of my biggest issues with it wasn't the name change, was the fact that they didn't do any improvements to the park. As somebody that frequented that park, you can't take your kids to the bathroom in there. You're afraid. Majority of the time, it's just not kept up like it should be. And not to mention, since I've lived in Statesville, I don't remember a new piece of equipment being put in that park.
No, and I've been here
for years and
38 years.
Same exact equipment.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, a $10,000 jungle gym over in the corner, something. I mean, the swings have 3 inches of paint on them. They just paint them every year,
Right.
They plant grass, and that's about it. Matter of fact, I was there a couple weeks ago, and it was just horrid. I mean, but anyway, back to the point. It got to talking about the streetscape and the plantings and stuff,
Mm-hmm.
And if you'll notice now, probably in another few weeks, for about 2 or 3 months, it doesn't look too great down there because all the annuals die off.
Right.
One of my ideas I threw out was, why not let agriculture or horticulture classes at some of the schools do some of the plantings.
Oh, that would that would be a cost-effective, right?
Yeah, Mitchell College has a huge program. Why not implement that?
Yeah.
Same thing with the artist, sculpture park. Why don't we have,
Local artists.
free art.
Right.
And they did that now with that art wall, which was a great idea. I'll give them kudos for that on the shoe store.
Yes.
They got have you seen that?
Yeah.
Great idea. Perfect. Didn't cost us a penny.
Right.
And it's beautiful, and it turned something ugly into pretty. But back to what I was saying. So in doing that, I got to thinking about it. I was like, well, how much money does it cost us to keep up these plants? And
It's a good question. A lot of people don't think about that. Right. I don't know if I thought about that.
I got to digging through the budget. I couldn't find it. I was like, well, where is it? So sure enough, I found it. But guess where I found it?
Under miscellaneous?
No, Parks and Rec.
Parks and Rec.
The Parks and Rec.
So that would make sense of why I see the Parks and Rec maintaining that, I guess.
Well, no, they have a contract with Tim Johnson.
Oh, that's right. That's right. I'm thinking of more downtown towards the tennis courts.
So it's a private contract. But
how is it under Parks and Rec?
It's like $160,000 a year to change those flowers out. And it's under Parks and Rec. And no disrespect to Parks and Rec. I mean, but somebody should say, hey, wait a minute, we don't have a new nothing, in Martin Luther King Park.
Right.
We're changing these dead flowers out every year.
But I mean, that would be a good way to take that money that's allocated for Parks and Rec and actually use it for Parks and Rec.
Exactly. That was my point.
And then use, like you said, maybe the high schools, maybe Mitchell, to go and do the flowers.
Exactly my point. But it's
that was that frowned upon.
It's
when you brought that up.
Yeah, it's just too innovative, and everybody in the council and everybody that was running with me, no children. One guy even told me, Julius, you need to focus on other things than that, And I'm like, well, that's
kind of important.
That's a lot of important.
The children are our future.
Yeah.
Pretty sure that's what the song goes.
In Statesville.
I mean, it seems like every time we go vote, we're having a vote on something for schools, some sort of tax, some sort of this.
Don't even get me started on that. I mean,
well, didn't we just have a tax increase on property tax of like 3%? Or
well, there's a
that's happening soon.
A quarter. No, it's on the ballot.
Well, no. But like 2 years ago or 3 years ago, remember?
That was they built that's what they're building the new schools with, I think.
Right. So everybody has to pay. I think it's 3% more, 7% more on your property tax. I mean, it's every property you own. Yeah. It goes up, and that's to go to this.
Yeah.
But now we got to pay this one.
That's going for the new Statesville Middle, I think.
Is it buildings?
Yeah.
But I thought that's
actually new schools
for new construction.
I think.
But I thought that was what lottery money was for. It was on new construction.
Well, that's state money. It's not enough. It's not enough to build. Like I think didn't they build an auditorium at North Iredale? And they built it. There was a lot of.
But it just seems like every time there's to me. Mm-hmm. And again, maybe I don't know the ins and outs of it.
That's count. See, the problem with Statesville, in my opinion, it's why do people come to Statesville? Why don't we have businesses? I think that's our biggest problem now. Mm-hmm. Yeah, socially, yes, we got a nice music scene. We got some nice local businesses. That's improving.
Yeah,
but our average income is still really, really low.
It's actually, I think, below or right at the national poverty level. I think below.
Yeah.
For a family of four.
We're the lowest in our whole area. I mean, Mooresville's almost double, and we're not quite double, but a lot.
Yeah.
We have a real problem with average income, and so, and that I think that reason is because of our school system. A lot of it, and that's not on the city of Statesville, but it could be. I grew up in Mooresville. Mooresville was part of the Iredell County school system. Mooresville had a population of 6,000 people. By the time I moved out of Mooresville. Were you watching the clock?
No, I was looking over there because I saw something move, but I saw like it was your head. So
are we up to 3 or 4 hours?
No, not yet.
We're running out of tape.
We have no, we're good.
But Mooresville succeeded from Iredell County Schools.
Oh, they did.
And,
I didn't know that.
Yeah, Mooresville greatest school district.
See,
and I'll tell you, whatever you want to say about Mooresville, you could say NASCAR made them, the lake made them, whatever. But if you look, when they upped that school system down there, it made a big difference in their growth and their economy. And in Statesville, unfortunately, Statesville City Schools, which is part of Iredell County Schools, but Statesville High particularly, and Statesville Middle is really down on the list.
Oh yeah, Statesville's a restart school now.
Right. And but nobody wants to talk about it, and can the city do anything to help that? Could they subsidize it?
I don't know. That's a good question.
But think about it. I mean, if you're a young entrepreneur opening a new business, you're looking on the map. You look at Mooresville. Wow, look at their school system. Wow, look at all the stuff there is to do. They got the great parks. They got the lake.
Right.
Statesville. Ooh, school's a little rough. Granted, I can get a nicer house.
Sure.
The business I'm going to open up, though, can people afford what I have to offer? Because
that's a good point.
They're making $32,000.
And you better have a small ass sign.
$32,000 a year versus
right.
$60 down the road. Even Hickory's in the 50s. I think we're 15, 20,000 below everybody.
Right.
And to me, that's what we need to work on. I mean, and not just in Statesville and Iredell County, nationally.
Sure. I
mean, our country, concentrating on blues and reds and bullshit lies, the propaganda, immigrants and whatever. And
it's all distraction.
It's a distraction from what our country really needs. We need to have the best school system in the world.
Right.
We need to have the best healthcare system in the world.
And
if those two things could be, at least we should be number one. I mean, we're the richest country in the world.
Used to be.
Maybe not Dubai or I don't know, but
yeah.
We're up there. We should be number one. We used to be number one. And if you want to make America great again, let's do that. But like I said, it's just too much distractions. And
you were talking about healthcare. I was talking to a lady today, and she's in Canada, and her husband has to go have a procedure done to help him go to the bathroom, help him urinate. You know what the doctor told him the wait is to have that done?
Oh God, who knows?
2 years. So he has a catheter now.
So I wonder how many people are dying up there.
But people are like,
healthcare is
in Canada's great. So you know what she wants to do? She wants to come down here. She wants to pay cash, and she wants to have it done. Now, if she pays cash up there, she can have it done.
Yeah, but I'm not for don't get me wrong. There's pre-existing. There's a few things in Obamacare that I agree with, but there's a lot of bad in it.
Sure.
And there's a lot of bad in every nationalized health care. That's probably the hardest thing a country can do and get it right. My biggest issue is with the cost of health care and the drugs. Letting these companies ruin our country with opioids. It's big money. And there's politicians that are turning their head to that stuff.
Of course.
I ain't gonna say the president is, because I think it's way below him. But
didn't he sign a bill? Was it today or yesterday about prescription drugs? I think I saw a flash of something.
They passed something. To
decrease the cost.
Yeah, it was. I think it was 99-1. Yeah.
Chuck Schumer held out.
No. But it's funny because Trump said that the Democrats were against it, but it was voted 99-1.
Maybe it was the one Democrat that voted.
Well, that's what he was talking about.
He was like, "Those are your people."
Those Democrats, that one guy. But like I said, it's just all. And it's an election year, of course.
Right.
Nobody's gonna. But that's I overlook all that crap, and I just I'm more about do the right thing.
Do the right thing.
And Trump, I'll give him credit on a lot of things. And that's what I think everybody should do.
Well,
but when he does something great, if you're a Democrat and he does something great, if you deny it, it fuels Republicans that say you're an idiot, you're soft, or you're snowflake, or whatever, and vice versa. Don't, when Trump does something bad, call it. You can say, hey, that was stupid.
That was dumb. Yeah, well, at the end of the day, regardless of who you vote for or what party you're affiliated with, you want the president to do well.
Yeah. I think you want all of them to do well.
Of course. Bill Maher said he hopes the president does well and the country goes back in a recession. It's easy for a guy who's worth $50 to $100 million to say he probably won't hurt him as bad.
It won't hurt him at all.
But when you got people living here making $32,000 trying to feed 4 kids, and that's a guy who stands on a liberal soapbox preaching for the little man, and tells you how to go vote.
Right.
But it's just, you got to be responsible with some of the people who have a platform and what you have to say.
Yeah.
And I just like being fair. And I want to go back to the flag to be fair about one thing, because I was trying to say it earlier. But, give me a big one. I hope you do. But, I would ask Marcus Lemonis, why did you continue to move forward with your company? You have this big branded flag that's part of your brand, but you knew there was an ordinance for it. Why didn't you fight for it years ago? Did you? Maybe we don't know. And then why is it an issue now?
Well, evidently there was. Statesville wasn't the only one on his list.
No, he had like 12 cities.
There was a list of them, but I think we were the only ones. I don't want to say stupid enough, but
dug our heels in.
Well, we compromised, and I think that was a mistake. One thing, like I said, one thing you can say about Trump is he ain't bending. You know what I mean? And when we bent and said, okay, we'll go to you can put a flag up, but it can only be this size. And what he did is he didn't mention, he didn't say, okay, well, no, that's not good enough, or this. Mm-hmm. He just went and did it. and to a point where you had, like I said, you had local politicians out there holding
the flag,
helping raise it, you know, so.
That would be a question I would have for him, maybe, along with some others. But.
Yeah, if anything, maybe Statesville should have just said, no, we're not going to, I don't know what the other cities have done in the meantime since they were called out on Twitter or whatever.
He posted a list about 2 years ago.
Yeah, right. That was the time we were, one of our current councilmen, John Stafford, that was one of his big platforms. And he had actually contacted Camping World, and it was a big thing that in his running for city council, one of the issues he had, as well as the Davis Hospital thing, I think. And, he made a lot of good points, and everywhere we went, everybody said, same thing, it's ridiculous. Matter of fact, the only time I'm not a very good public speaker at these forums were very awkward for me. But I followed him up one day, and I was thinking, "Ooh, man, this is going to be juicy," And the first thing out of my mouth was, I said, "I'm Julius Hoke. I'm running for city council. I'm a veteran, and there's no such thing as too big a flag for me." And I got the little cheer, and I was I was like, "Yeah," and then I screwed it up totally after that. But that was the only good thing. I think I was so shocked,
you got an applause.
Well, and I, of course, I used it to my advantage, especially being a veteran. But it was true.
But it's true.
And I got more applause off of that than when I, told another councilman that I thought it was a disgrace that he was bragging about purchasing a new, fire truck when, it was about 5 years overdue. And the firemen were riding around with duct tape on their window.
Right. And that's real.
And I basically said, you shouldn't be bragging about that. That's something you're supposed to do. You don't brag. Like Chris Rock always says, so, you got to hate the person that brags about stuff that they, I paid my bills.
Right. You're supposed to pay your bills.
You're supposed to pay your bills.
I went to work.
I take care of my kids. You're supposed to take care of your kids. If you're a city councilman, you're supposed to support your police department and your fire department and make sure they have the best quality equipment.
Right. To keep us safe.
Within reason. We don't want them driving around in Corvettes with, sirens on top of them. But
they can keep that in Mooresville.
Yeah. But let our police department go undermanned for that many years. And, it's ridiculous. Yeah.
Is there a way for for everyone to go and find information easily about, what current city councilmen have voted for, voted against, what they're, it's hard to find that.
Yeah, it is. And that was the thing.
I think you said you made that can or
when
scan.
I had the can page, we tried to publish stuff like that. I got scalded a couple times because oh, it's on the website and this and that and the other. And
but is it really on the website?
Yeah, it is, but it's a little tricky to find. That's the agenda.
Yeah,
the agenda for the
But that's great. But we need to see what people vote for,
right,
or against.
Right. Well, and they'll tell you in the minutes. I think they publish the minutes like the next time when they.
So you have to read through the
minutes.
Yeah,
you definitely have to read. So you can't
just literally click and see who voted for against.
Yeah,
and there's a list.
There's no against flag this and against that.
Right. So you can't. They don't make it simple.
I think the last article I read about the flag, it just had a number.
It did. It was voted down 5-3.
5-3, and I don't even think it said who was for. And,
no, it did. Yeah, because that's how I know that the person in my district voted against it.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah.
So. And there's a couple of people that voted against it that I feel that was for it originally. They changed their mind, so I don't know. Maybe it was because they compromised, and maybe it was just not an issue that was enduring to them or their district.
Yeah, right.
I think
it wasn't important at the time.
Well, I think it's the council game seems to be like a little bit of compromise, with certain things.
Well, I guess
you give on me on this one, and I'll help you out on.
But that's probably all politics, really, right? I mean, you have to have a little bit of give and take, otherwise nothing gets done.
Well, that's part of the problem with the.
What is it? Pick and choose your battles.
Yeah,
right.
But the part of the problem with the crap, there I go again.
Amateur.
Yeah, rookie. The whole ward thing stateside is super confusing, and that was one thing that I tried to tell people. I actually had people show up to vote for me that didn't even live in
your district.
Well, no, I was running for at large, so anybody.
Okay.
They weren't actually even Statesville citizens. They were, how many people have Statesville on your address is Statesville. Right. So you think, oh, I'm gonna go vote, and I had some of my regulars, a couple of elderly folks. I mean, these guys are super, like in their 90s. Matter of fact, the wife passed away not long ago, but I'll never forget seeing them getting out of the car and slowly working their way up. And I seen them and they waved at me and they said, "Julius, we're here to vote for you." And I was like, just, anytime anybody said that to me, it was just super, almost emotional because you think, damn, this person has.
Oh, they believe in you.
They believe in you, yeah. So. And then they finally made their way in, and probably 30 seconds later they come back out the door and they're like, "Julius, they wouldn't let us vote." Oh, they said, "We don't live in Statesville." They said, "But it says Statesville," and I tried to explain to them that you have to live in the city limits.
What they have to do,
if we don't get your money, that you don't have no say.
They have to find someone who lives in the city and know their birth date and address, and then go vote for them.
And that's what I did get some of that. I had a lot of my support was being a North Iredell guy. Yeah. A lot of my friends live in that area, and they say, "Julius, if we could vote, we would." And some of them actually told me that they had, their parents lived in the city, and or they had a cousin, and that's probably how I got a lot of votes. So
I'm sure.
Yeah, that helped. But it's when you have 13 candidates, and and like I said, people confused. 3 of the candidates weren't even running, and people were voting for them.
Do you think you'll run again for something?
I don't know. Politics is starting to sicken me. Like I said, today I've just had this kind of knot in my stomach about just all the rhetoric, and I'm sure tomorrow, God, I can't even imagine what's going to be going on tomorrow. Locally, the city council thing, I might. But you just can't. Like I said, my ward is up next time. But last time there was 500 people voted. Yeah. And I can't imagine if 4 or 5 candidates come out to vote to go for that seat, and you have 5% voter turnout. I don't really want to be elected to city council with 50 votes. I mean, and really, I mean, if the guy that's in there now is won with 200 votes, 300 votes. And running, I think, a couple times unopposed, and a couple times with maybe 1, maybe 2 at the most, I think, ever.
But even if you did win with the 50 votes, if you felt like you could get in there and make a positive difference and an impact, it would be worth it, right? But I see how it cheapens.
But if there's 5 or 6 people that run, it would be hard for me to take that chance. I don't know. the time when I ran for at large, I was the first one in line on where you sign up, give your $5 and you sign up. I was the first one in line. I knew that there was, because at the time there was some issues with, they were fighting in the chamber. There was the park issue. There was the flag issue. There was a lot of stuff going on that a lot of people were grumbling about. So I figured there'd be maybe a little more interest in those seats. But I never had an inkling that 13 people would run.
Right.
And then a former city council member, or Iredell County Commissioner, when he threw his name in, been county commissioner for 20 years and pretty well respected. I kind of knew at that point. And then it's like,
but don't you think it was good to see the turnout, to see that many people are interested and are passionate about trying to make a difference?
Right. But
I think it also put pressure on the folks who were up for re-election to really put them on the hot seat.
But I don't know if I explained to you what I witnessed. Now, me and another fella were there every day. All I really had to offer in running for city council was hard work. I didn't have a campaign manager. I didn't have a bank account. I ran on my own bill. If you spend under $500, you don't have to have an account and report it and all that. So
gotcha.
I had a $500 budget. I spent $350 on signs and $50 on business cards. But all I had was, and I said, hey, I've run my mouth. I believe in putting in the work. So every morning when I dropped the kids off, I went right to the polls and I stood there all day long. I would leave, go pick my kids home up from school, come back, sometimes with the kids, stand out there every day. And for, every day of early voting and election day. And, like I said, it was, one of the candidates running for mayor was a younger fella. And we were having a discussion later on, and he was not out at the polls too often. He had business or whatever. I didn't blame anybody for not being there.
Yeah.
But he said that, I got this wrapped up, man. I'm taking the election. And I looked at him and I said, what makes you so sure? He said, my people are coming out, man. They're voting. And I said, listen, I'm here every day. And I don't see anybody like me or you. And he was a lot younger than me. I says, we have the list of voters. They would give you they wouldn't tell you who they voted for, but they would give you the name and address of everybody that voted that day.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Does it show their age?
Yeah, personally.
Oh, man.
So I told him, I said, well, take that list home. This was the Friday. I said, this was the Friday before the Saturday was the last day of early voting. And then Tuesday was election day. This was for that Friday. I said, get those numbers, take them home and do your thing. He was a good computer guy, which I never do. About 2 hours later, he calls me on the phone. He says, Julius, he says, you're right. And I said, well, how bad was it? He said, the average age is 62. He said, there's 140 voters under the age of 40. And I told him, I said, there you go.
There you go.
I said, unless you got a massive, massive turnout election day, you forget about it, because 62 ain't voting for me.
No.
Matter of fact, I joked around sometimes when we were out there because people would come up and, a lot of the candidates would jump up and, kind of almost, some were very aggressive, almost sickeningly aggressive, got to vote for these people and, just trying to get in these people's minds. Some people were like very, staunch and don't talk to me and keep walking.
Right.
But some, would sit there and listen to the spiel. But it was just, God, I lost what I was going to say.
Well, I'm sure, but I'll be. I mean, it takes a lot of guts. It takes a lot of balls to even put your name out there and to go and stand in front of people. And,
it's a lot harder than you think it is. It
really
I'm sure.
Is.
It was really, it was stressful. And back to what I was saying about it just being disheartening that people were uninformed and just voting for whoever came in and not seeing, what I was going to make the point was that I joked around with the people when we all rushed up there. I would see somebody on a walker or something. I'd say that's not my demographic. that was the punchline of what I was trying to say a second ago. But it was true. Here I was, a younger guy, in a ball cap, and just these people couldn't relate to me at all. They look at me like, and some of them even like, how old are you?
Whippersnapper.
Well, I'm 48, but I'm in good, decent shape. So I guess a lot of them didn't think I was quite 48.
Yeah, you don't look 48.
Right. So they were like,
could you imagine if I ran? They'd be like, you're
oh,
not even
God,
old enough.
yeah. Well, that's, the guy running for mayor I was talking about is 27, and he looked, 27. So he needed, the young people, and they just didn't show up. And I don't know how much the percentages changed after that election day, Tuesday, but couldn't have been that much. I mean, I still think it was probably about 60, the average voter, but the funny thing is too, is the average age of Statesville citizens on the census was 35.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
Average age?
Average age in Statesville was 35. So
they're staying at home. They're not voting.
I guess. Or they didn't know, where they could go, where to vote, And like I said, a lot of it was in that election, you could at least vote for, you got mayor and you got 2 at-large seats that you could vote for, and you got your ward, but you could only vote for your ward. So you got 4 at most. Some people, if their ward wasn't up, they would just get mayor and 2 at-large.
Gotcha.
So you get 3 people. So that right there is, like I said, it's a huge disadvantage. I said, why not take one of the at-large seats and put it on the election, the other 2-year election, where you have the 3 wards. At least you have an at-large and, your ward to vote for.
It's a good idea.
Well, they don't want,
They'll be shaking up the apple cart, kid.
Well, it's just nobody wants, they don't want it to make it easy.
Right. No, they don't. There's a reason. There's a method to the madness.
Right. And even the way the wards are divided, one ward was, crazy mixed up. I think it's Ward 1. You got these apartments over here, and just craziness.
Let me ask you this too, which I thought was a big debate on our question during your election time, was that Larkin project. Man, it got a lot of the news was here, got a lot of photo ops and the record landmark putting the plans. Yeah. Has there been an inch of dirt moved in 2 years?
Not to my knowledge. And that was another thing that just kind of started off my whole experience in politics. Like I said, just so much just craziness.
But shouldn't there be like a follow up on that?
They had a press conference. A couple of the city councilmen. One of them was up for the election. They had a big, huge press conference somewhere, and had developers, and they had Channel 9 all the news outlets, and basically they were announcing the rebranding of Larkin, that it was going to be industrial and residential instead of commercial, retail commercial and retail. Basically, it was just blowing smoke,
Well, that's my question, because where is it? What's happening?
Well, nothing, but they used it as a political, hey, look at us. And same thing with the park. Like I said, I was involved in politics, but I didn't know the inside stuff until I got there. A couple of there was a guy from Washington D.C. that's from Statesville that works pretty prominently in Washington D.C. that was on the committee that pushed to change the name of the park. 2 weeks after the park name gets changed, a couple of councilmen are in Washington D.C. having lunch on the lawn of the White House.
How about that?
Representing Statesville, of course.
Okay.
And when asked how much, tax dollars we were paying for that, it was privately funded. They paid for it out of their own pocket. So it wasn't for Statesville. It was a reward for getting something done for,
Damn. A little peek behind the curtain, man.
Well,
that's
it's
good.
not, it's just, but that's I guess that's life. It's politics. What do you do? But like I said, when people ask me, I'm straight up. I'll tell you. I'll tattletale on anybody. I don't care. I'm like, hey, this guy did that. This guy did this. It's not lies.
I don't know any inside because I don't have any inside, but I have questions, and I think a lot of people have questions.
Well,
there's questions that deserve to be answered.
Well, one of the first questions I got asked when I was running was about that park, and it was from the guy that pushed for it, and I told him, I said, something should have been named after Dr. King 20 years ago in this town. I mean, if you want to get honest with it, I says, I think that wasn't a good choice. I think not because of who he is or anything to do with race. It was, just not a very exciting place. Give him something new. Put his name on something new. They had a whole ordinance about you couldn't name streets after him. That's why they didn't rename Shelton Avenue. So they had to pick something. And I said, well, why that park? To me, the park is the furthest thing away from where anybody can see it. I mean, half the people, anybody coming to Statesville on a visit could never find that park, for one thing.
True.
I mean, who knows?
And most people still remember it as Lakewood or the Duck Park.
And it had already been renamed something since its existence, And you got a brand new sculpture park that you just put in. You spent $100,000 worth of taxpayer money at the time. And this is just maybe I like to think out of the box. And this is what I said to him. I said, listen, they got this sculpture park over here that is put in. I says, about 6 months ago, a Prince painting appeared on this building over here. This rundown building with busted out windows, whatever. There's a painting of Prince. The news is out there. People are coming from all over the state of North Carolina.
That's true.
To see this picture of Prince.
Yeah.
Right? Okay. You want something for Dr. Martin Luther King in Statesville. Get that artist that painted that Prince. And this big giant gray wall right here behind the sculpture park, Martin Luther King Jr. So then when the African-American dad's riding through town with his son, his son says, who's that, Dad? Say, son, that's Dr. Martin Luther King, an American hero.
It's a good point. It's a good idea. Right. They can see it.
Right. Prince, no, I love Prince, huge fan.
Sure.
But, they voted to leave Prince there, of course. Yeah. But it's on a terrible piece of, the building's dilapidated, but why not, think out of the box, like I said, give Dr. King what he deserves.
Well, maybe they will,
and make up for some of the, the fact that, we waited so long to do that, probably the last city in the country to, honor him and somehow.
But maybe again, that's another example. It could be where you're ahead of your time with the artisan restaurant that has the Green Man beer.
I'm not a genius, so that's my fault. I mean, it's just common sense stuff to me, but I think that's what Statesville needs. When when you're lacking certain areas, you got to come up with something innovative. Look at a town like Kannapolis. I mean, they demolished the whole town basically and started over, and they're thriving. They're doing some innovative stuff. One thing they did was they brought in a carousel from Italy. I think they paid like $100,000 for it or something, but it's hugely popular, and they put it in a square. It's stuff like that. The innovative thinking. Like I said, with the skate park. We should have had a skate park 20 years ago.
Do they still do the downhill billies or whatever it is with the skate? They don't do that here anymore.
No, that was.
I think that's what it's called.
Yeah, that guy moved out of town. He was like the president of that, and it kind of fizzled, I guess. But part of it was, there's no community here for that. I'm not a skater at all, but I think at some point in time you got to do something for your kids. You got to do something.
Yeah, but things
and the parkour thing, like I said, it goes hand in hand with the skate park, and it's innovative and different.
I think the city is making progress. Things are moving to downtown. We got a couple of new breweries open, like we talked about earlier, which is good, and the new outdoor store, I believe. That's going to be opening up. So things are coming. Maybe it's just not moving in as fast as some people want, and I think it's moving faster than some people want, right? So,
well, we have to be able to support those businesses with money. I mean,
do.
Eventually, you need more people that like craft beers and can afford craft beers. Right. If you're going to build more breweries, you don't want them to outgrow the economy. I want the best for those guys.
Absolutely.
They've got great products, and I want them to stick around.
Maybe it'll help draw from Hickory. Maybe it'll help draw from. Well,
but we have to do something to draw business here.
Right.
That'll help to some point, but a lot of business owners with children, they want a little bit something different. And I'll preach to the end of time that this town needs something for for their kids. I mean, not just infants, but teenagers. You know, it's something. I mean,
something to do other than the movies.
Well, movies and bowling. You know, I regret sometimes that I let the fun station building, you know, go bad. And, you know, I think to myself, maybe I should have kept it, and you know, maybe that should have been a dream, and rebranded it. And you know, I didn't realize the impact it was going to have when it did go out of business. You know, a lot of people really did miss it, even though it wasn't living up to its standards that it should have been.
Right.
But part of that was, you know, a bad economy. You know,
he
suffered at the, you know, he was right in the middle of the recession. You know, so he never could recuperate from that to rebrand it. But you know, somebody, I'll win that $1 billion. I'll be able to super fun station or something, but I don't know.
Well, man, I'm gonna wrap it up. I enjoyed it.
Here, man. My wife's calling.
I enjoyed it. I think myself and other people who listen in got to know you a little better, and it was fun getting a little peek behind the curtain.
My favorite subject is myself.
That's the one you know the most about.
I know, yeah. I don't mind talking about it.
And getting a peek behind the curtain a little bit of someone who actually has stood there and ran for local politics, and you know, get some insight to that. So, man, I appreciate it, and I'm glad everybody went out there to vote, and we'll see what happens.
Yeah, and like I said, you know, hopefully I don't come off too egotistical. You know, I do, and negative. You know, because like I said, when you know, I can say 100 good things about Statesville. You say one bad, and I'm like, oh, there he goes again. You know, I got that a lot with the can. Nobody loves this town more than I do, and I just want the best for it. And there's a lot of things I love about it, man. Like I said, I love being able to come to work in 5 minutes and not have to, you know, more. But you know, I said a few nice things about Mooresville. They do have a lot going on, but. You know,
that traffic.
Oh God!
Sucks.
I mean, you know, 77 down there and 150. You know, I couldn't deal with it for nothing. So, if we can, you know, improve on our way of living and keep that small town vibe, I think, you know, Statesville could be perfect almost. You know,
I do think we're going in the right direction.
We're getting there.
We're etching. We're etching along.
Yeah, we're getting there. We need some tech jobs, man. You know, that's what I think the wave of the future. You know. A nice Amazon.
Maybe in 20 more years we'll see.
Well, you know,
maybe this will be their
Mooresville's running out of land down there. You know, surely maybe they will move to Larkin. You know, I don't know. I think the timing on that was just bad. You know, Statesville could spend some money on some more important things. You know, immediate needs. Maybe, right. You know, we got to get the stormwater thing fixed and. You know, maybe I don't know what we can do about these schools. You know, hopefully, step up somehow or another. The county will get things worked out, and we'll get them going. My kids go to, you know, Iredell County school systems, and there's a lot of great people that working real hard to make them better. So we just gotta get over the hump, I guess.
Absolutely. Well, man, I appreciate it.
Yeah, man.
And you take us out.
Oh, how do I do that?
Just I just gotta go hit the button. Yeah. Thanks, everybody. Check you out next week.